Attention, an artificial object was found on Mars. What is it? A message from aliens or a harbinger of the apocalypse? That's exactly how the headlines would sound in publications loved by conspiracy theorists and witnesses of reptiloids. But we're not them. The Hubble channel always tries to get to the bottom of any phenomenon or event, presenting the opinions of all sides and the results of authoritative research. So everyone knows that no human has ever visited any celestial body other than the moon. But traces of humanity are still present both within the solar system and beyond its boundaries. While Elon Musk is preparing a manned expedition to Mars, which is expected to become a real sensation on the red planet, over many years of astronomical research, quite a few probes have settled there that will never return to Earth. It would seem that all space agencies know about this. But sometimes when they find fragments of spacecraft, they are genuinely surprised at where they came from on the dead surface of Mars. HALOU. One day, in one of the locations on our dusty neighbor, an artificial object was detected, a cylinder shining in the sunlight, standing out among the scattered rocks. How did this fragment appear on the red planet, and what other surprises await us? In fact, Mars can be called conditionally habitable without exaggeration, since traces of our civilization's activity are increasingly being detected among its rusty hills. Right now, several active probes are exploring the planet, while the remains of others that have long since stopped working are buried in the Martian sands. Interestingly, the total mass of such objects currently reaches about 7 tons. Since 1971, 16 Earth probes have visited the red planet with varying degrees of success. Naturally, they couldn't help but leave their mark on the surface of Mars, so the appearance of the mysterious cylinder also has a perfectly logical explanation. Most likely, it's a casing that fell off the Viking 2 probe during landing. Let's take it step by step. The mentioned spacecraft was sent to Mars as part of the American Viking program and operated on the red planet for more than 19 months. The station consisted of an orbiter and a lander, with the first one failing 2 years earlier. During the descent on September 3, 1976, Viking 2 jettisoned its ballast and deployed its braking parachute according to the usual procedure to make a soft landing in the plain region. Utopia is quite a strange area, with a diameter of 3,300 kilometers completely covered with rocks of various sizes. There are almost no craters here, and Utopia is located in the northern hemisphere of Mars. Apparently, it is an ancient impact crater, so enormous that it is difficult to properly identify. Since the landscape here is quite monotonous and bleak, it's not surprising that scientists' attention was drawn to a small cylinder, clearly visible in the photo sent to Earth by the probe. The fact is, the main activity of Viking 2 is collecting soil samples. For this purpose, a sampler was used, which was usually covered with a special cap when it was not in use. But as soon as the device was ready, the cover automatically popped off, hitting a nearby rock. Thus, the part remained on Mars, just like Viking 2 itself. Overall, this situation is standard, since every spacecraft and its structural parts receive a permanent residence on the lifeless expanses of the red planet at the moment of landing. Of course, a 30-centimeter long cover is too tiny a part to be seen from a satellite, but the Spirit lander, which landed on Mars on January 4, 2004, can definitely be seen. Now the probe is covered with impenetrable bronze sands in Gusev crater. It can easily be mistaken for an ordinary rock. There was a time when the probe worked very well, greatly surpassing the agency's planned active time. Spirit operated until 2010, although it was expected to last no more than 90 sols or 92.5 Earth days. Gusev crater is an interesting location, possibly once having been a lake, but Spirit traveled not only along the floor of this hypothetical ancient body of water. As much as it could, it explored all the nearby craters and hills. Unfortunately, the storms quickly and severely reduced the solar panel's overall capacity. How did it manage to recover? Surprisingly, even on Mars, the saying "fight fire with fire" works perfectly. Dust devils, small whirlwinds that periodically sweep across the planet's surface, helped clean the batteries and thus extended the viability of the Spirit probe. The last communication session with the Mars rover took place on March 22, 2010. The probe likely failed due to battery malfunction. Also, this was preceded by getting stuck in Martian sand. Spirit was never able to escape from the hellish trap. It still remains deep within a sand dune, not far from a huge formation called Home Plate. Created by Dima Torzok, it lay buried under dust. What other spacecraft have met their end on Mars? First of all, we should consider the failed attempts at soft landing on the surface of the red planet, which were made by the following probes. Mars 2. The wreckage is located in the Xanthi Terra region, and it became the first artificial object to reach a planet of the solar system other than Earth. Mars 3. Its remains at the bottom of the Ptolemaeus crater were discovered by the Mars Orbiter satellite. The Soviet Mars 6, which left a 4-meter crater in the Erythraeum Mare after its crash. Mars Polar Lander. It entered the atmosphere of the red planet and disappeared without a trace. To this day, the situation remains a mystery. Deep Space 2, which participated in National Aeronautics and Space Administration's New Millennium program, made a fatal hard landing on the red planet. The British Beagle 2, which landed successfully on the surface of Mars, but never made contact. The almost undamaged probe was discovered only 12 years later. In 2015, Schiaparelli crashed onto the surface of the red planet, falling from a height of 4 kilometers. But that's far from all. Among the craters and mountains of our closest neighbor, you can find spacecraft that, for various reasons, have ceased their productive work. The elder among the probes is Opportunity, which landed in Eagle Crater on the Meridiani Plateau in 2004. The rover survived many craters and dust storms, but the last planet-wide storm, as large as North America, in Perseverance Valley, was fatal. Presumably, Opportunity froze because sunlight could not reach its batteries through the thick layer of dust. Even today, the tracks of this remarkable probe remain visible on Mars. Along with the planet Mars, it seems that, in our understanding, no, but the Steel Phoenix is still present here. The Mars rover was launched by National Aeronautics and Space Administration in 2007, and a year later it began actively roaming the surface of Mars's polar region. This is the first device to discover water on the seemingly dead surface of our rocky neighbor. Unfortunately, Phoenix remained in the icy embrace of the Martian Arctic, unable, like in a fairy tale, to rise again from the ashes. Did all the Mars rovers either turn into wreckage, freeze, or get covered in dust? Of course not. At the moment, 5 probes are actively operating on the surface of Mars, one of which is currently making its first flights in the atmosphere of the red planet. By the way, based on the achievements of this innovative Mars rover, a project for a device to explore Titan called Dragonfly is being developed. If you look at a map of Mars or at the planet's surface from satellites, it becomes obvious that our dusty neighbor is not so lonely. Various probes like Curiosity, Insight, Perseverance, Ingenuity, and Tianwen-1 are actively moving around its valleys, and some regions jealously preserve traces of past catastrophes. That's why future colonists who will soon settle the red planet won't feel lonely. Without even realizing it, we are already beginning to inhabit Mars. Guess what disaster is guaranteed to await us in 4 to 5 billion years? Which galaxy will the Milky Way collide with? It turns out that it's our closest neighbor, the huge shining Andromeda. It's unknown whether humanity will exist by that time, because that's exactly when the sun will begin turning into a red giant and most likely will scorch the Earth. But despite that, some impressive events are expected. Who knows? Maybe our descendants will watch the merging of galaxies from the spacious galleries of Martian colonies, which will appear on the red planet in the foreseeable future. However, we got carried away. It's time to answer the question, what is the Andromeda Galaxy, and when will we clearly see it on the Earth's horizon? It's one of the local group of galaxies' iconic objects, which also includes the Milky Way. Right now, it's flying toward us at a speed of about 300 kilometers per second. But considering the enormous distance, the objects won't meet anytime soon. The galaxy, or as it's often called, the Andromeda Nebula, is a spiral galaxy located in the constellation of the same name. Its size is twice that of the Milky Way, at least in terms of diameter. The distance between our galaxies is about 800 kiloparsecs, or 9.5 trillion kilometers. Would you like to see with your own eyes in the night sky the mysterious object that has repeatedly become the hero of science fiction works? There are no obstacles to this, since Andromeda can be seen with the naked eye, which is why it has attracted the attention of astronomers for hundreds of years. In the future, its silhouette will only get bigger? Just like in any other galaxy, there are stars living here as well. But the population of Andromeda is much older than the inhabitants of the Milky Way. Spectral analysis of local stars shows they have higher metallicity. In general, the relative proximity of this galaxy has allowed astrophysicists to study it quite well. The visible radius of the spiral formation is about 250,000 light years, and yet Andromeda is considered less massive than the Milky Way. Where did this paradox come from? Scientists do not yet know the exact answer to this question. Indeed, the Andromeda Galaxy has about 5 times more stars than ours. Accordingly, it should be much more massive, but in fact, according to indirect studies, it's actually the opposite. To begin with, let's take a closer look at what kinds of stars inhabit our galactic neighbor. Stars are still being born in Andromeda, but the pace of this process is much slower than in our galaxy, amounting to about 30% of the Milky Way's activity. At the center of Andromeda live very old stars, true galactic elders, whose age reaches up to 13 billion years, meaning they appeared practically at the dawn of the universe. The Big Bang Theory. As for the disk, which has 2 spiral arms, younger stars have settled here. They are only about 4 to 7 billion years old, almost like our sun. Overall, our neighbor has sheltered about 1 trillion stars, while for comparison, the Milky Way has up to 400 billion. If it were even brighter, it would appear larger than the moon in the Earth's sky. The Andromeda Galaxy is a realm of globular clusters and massive black holes, of which about 35 have been discovered here. Globular clusters are peculiar satellites of the galactic center in the form of star clumps, tightly bound to it by gravity. The density here is very high. The distance between stars can be as little as 3 million kilometers. In the Milky Way, this figure is 7,000 times greater. Globular clusters can be up to 60 parsecs wide and have masses up to 1 million times that of the Sun. There are around 500 of these objects in the Andromeda Nebula, but the most well-known is Male 2, or M31G-1. This cluster is the brightest in the local group of galaxies. Scientists suggest that there is a black hole in the center of the object with several 100,000 solar masses. How did so many globular clusters appear in the Andromeda Galaxy? Astrophysicists tend to believe that at one time, the Andromeda Nebula was quite voracious, actively absorbing smaller objects. That's why dense star clusters may be the centers of long-destroyed dwarf galaxies. In any case, Male 2, which is characterized by its metallicity and permanent star formation, fits this definition by 90%. Male is about 15 million solar masses. These amazing, dazzlingly sparkling cosmic objects are classified according to the age of their stellar population. The first group is globular clusters, where stellar teenagers have gathered, stars no older than 500 million years. The second group includes stars whose age reaches up to 5 billion years. The third group has sheltered extremely long livers, nearly as old as the universe. And what about globular clusters in our galaxy? They also exist in the Milky Way, but the star's age is very little. All the stars are equally ancient, up to 12 billion years old. There are no young ones at all. Also, in our galaxy, no objects resembling the destroyed centers of other stellar disks have been found so far. What else can the galaxy named after the constellation Andromeda surprise us with? It has an unusual structure, with 2 cores separated by 5 light years. But most likely this is just a visual effect caused by the enormous distance. The so-called cores are actually very dense clusters of young stars formed in the shape of a torus, rapidly and very closely orbiting a black hole with a mass of 140 million suns. Are there many deadly pits hidden in the depths of the Andromeda galaxy? Scientists say there are plenty. This makes Andromeda a location densely populated with black holes. Not all of them are massive, some are only 5 to 10 times the mass of the Sun. Astronomers suggest that many of these black holes are candidates for inevitable collisions in the future. Their merger creates multiple supermassive objects. The presence of a huge number of black holes indicates that in the early stages of its existence, the Andromeda galaxy had quite a few massive stars, which eventually evolved into deadly funnels greedily attracting all kinds of matter. The main characteristic of such black holes is their gradual gain in mass caused by their insatiable appetite. It turns out that there must also be quite a few stars in the Andromeda galaxy right now that will eventually turn into black holes or are currently in the process of transforming. However, at the moment, only a single supernova has been discovered called S Andromedae. It was observed in 1885. This is the first object of its kind discovered outside the Milky Way. Since the sudden outburst, according to scientists' observations, the star dimmed very quickly, rapidly losing its brightness. This alarmed astrophysicists because usually supernovae of this type fade twice as slowly. Scientists are still unsuccessfully pondering this mystery. Meanwhile, echoes of the monstrous explosion were observed from Earth even in 1922 with the help of the Hubble telescope. Finally, it's worth mentioning the highlight that is hidden in the Andromeda galaxy. To begin with, let's give a hint about what we're going to talk about. Try to guess what astrophysicists around the world are currently working on, besides discussing the safety factors of a manned flight to Mars. They're searching for exoplanets, objects where life in its various forms might be possible. A similar celestial body has also been discovered in the Andromeda galaxy. In any case, it's a candidate for this vacant spot. The possible exoplanet has been assigned the index PA99N2 in the catalog. Its mass is estimated to be about 10 Jupiters. Unfortunately, there is no more information about the object, which is not surprising, since if the data is confirmed, this would be the most distant planet discovered so far. The celestial body is located 4 billion light years from Earth. In addition, PA99N2 will become the first exoplanet discovered in another galaxy. And the last surprise from the Andromeda galaxy for today. Have you ever wondered why this object is sometimes called a nebula? This isn't the first time in the history of astronomy that galaxies far from Earth have been mistakenly taken for clusters of gas, plasma, and cosmic dust. And for a long time, the Andromeda galaxy was also identified as the Great Nebula. But in 1924, Edwin Hubble opened the public's eyes by stating that the so-called spiral nebula is not actually a nebula. This huge galaxy located in the constellation Andromeda shows that the Milky Way is not the only such formation in the universe. According to scientists' estimates, the Andromeda galaxy, which formed more than 10 billion years ago, is a very ancient stellar conglomerate whose appearance was preceded by an epic collision of several objects. Later, there were quite a few cosmic collisions, which contributed to active star formation in the depths of Andromeda. Astronomers' predictions about the Milky Way colliding with its massive neighbor will likely come true, as the distance between the galaxies is steadily shrinking. But what will happen as a result? Should we expect a terrible catastrophe? Experts believe that we should not. The objects will gradually merge, and this is unlikely to cause the destruction of the solar system or the sun itself. The only threat to our planetary community is that it could be thrown to the outskirts of the new structure. The process of integration will not be instantaneous. It will take at least 2 billion years, resulting in a titanic ellipse of trillions of stars, which has already been given the unique name Andromeda. It's a pity that we won't witness the spectacular cosmic event when Andromeda forces the Milky Way out of its comfort zone. But on the other hand, that's probably for the best. We still have time to watch interesting videos in a calm, cozy atmosphere. What feelings do you get when you look at the night sky? It's clear that it's magnificent and mysterious, but few people think about how vast the expanses of the universe are. And not all of them are filled with diamond-like sparks of stars. Today we will dive into the embrace of voids, boundless regions with a very low density of star clusters. Essentially, these are peculiar cosmic deserts, one of which is called the Keenan-Barger-Cowie Void. The first galactic voids as a phenomenon were discovered in 1978. The discovery belongs to the National Kitt Peak Observatory, located in the American Sonoran Desert, as well as the Tartu Observatory in Estonia. Have you always been sure that dazzling stars, rocky, icy asteroids, and voracious black holes occupy most of the space in the universe? No, absolutely not. Its true inhabitants are enormous voids, sometimes merging into superclusters. The sizes of most objects belonging to this group are about 130 million light years, but that's far from the limit. Sometimes even larger deserts can be observed, one of the largest is called the Giant, and its size reaches up to 1.3 billion light years. But today we're not going to talk about it. On the agenda is a monstrous dark void called the KBS void, and its scale is truly astonishing. Where does such a strange name come from? The object was named after the first Latin letters of the surnames of the astronomers who discovered it. The monster was discovered in 2013 by Rayan Keenan, Amy Barger, and Lennox Cowie. The spherical void, KBS, is the largest in the universe, and in any case the most impressive of the objects found by astronomers. Its size makes one doubt the accuracy of the calculations, since its diameter is 600 megaparsecs, or 2 billion light years. The terrifying void includes the local group of galaxies, which also contains the Milky Way and the Laniakea supercluster. Our galaxy is very far from the center of the KBS void, at several hundred million light years. The colossal void leaves far behind both the Eridanus supervoid, the Giant Void, and other similar structures. In ancient times, there was a poetic expression about the crystal dome of the heavens. It's not just a beautiful phrase. Several hundred years ago, it was actually believed that the sky was a solid and flat surface. With the advent of telescopes, astronomical ideas changed radically, not to mention the shameful removal of the turtle and elephants who supported the Earth for centuries. Later on, humanity was in for even more unexpected discoveries, particularly the realization that the universe vaguely resembles a sponge made up of galactic filaments and voids between them. It took many years and intellectual effort to reach this conclusion, but now we know how things really are. So what are galactic filaments made of? They are made up of superclusters, such as, for example, Laniakea, and they are separated by empty cosmic spaces, like the relatively small local void located near our galaxy, which has a diameter of about 195 million light years. But it looks like a helpless child compared to the great void that surrounds us. How were astronomers able to calculate such a massive object? One day, scientists wondered about the amount of radiation reaching Earth from all corners of the universe and realized that the Milky Way is like a remote provincial town, gazing in awe at the sparkling lights of a metropolis. In other words, we are surrounded by swirling darkness, and light in its absolute sense is very far away. This vast emptiness was named the cosmic microwave background void, and it still remains a source of heated debate among astronomers. But how can it be called emptiness if humanity lives in it? That's a perfectly fair point, you might argue. It's important to clarify that voids are called empty only conditionally, because strictly speaking, they're regions where the density of galaxies is much lower than the average in the universe, sometimes by 50% or more. The next logical question arises: where did supervoids come from, and how does this relate to the rate of expansion of the universe? If we could definitively prove these voids exist, measurements of the cosmic microwave background would let us calculate the macrocosm's expansion rate much more accurately. Let's return to the origin of voids. As soon as hypotheses about their existence appeared, scientists immediately assumed that the formation of these huge voids involved that very dark matter, which appeared long before the formation of the first galaxies. Computer simulations clearly demonstrate how exactly fluctuations of dark matter arose from the moment the universe originated, giving rise to galactic filaments and huge voids. Clearly, this phenomenon isn't local. The process relates to the formation of the large-scale cellular structure of our macro world. Did voids exist in the early stages of the universe's expansion? Astronomers think they did not, since matter was evenly distributed after the Big Bang. But when the universe began to expand, the situation changed, gradually leading to an uneven density of matter. That's how voids appeared, scattered between the galactic filaments. Or perhaps galaxies boldly entered the calm of the cosmic deserts. One way or another, thanks to this complex and lengthy process, we are now trying to unravel the intricacies of the giant cosmic shadow web. Astronomers have an interesting term called the end of greatness. If you don't look closely, the universe's sponge-like structure isn't obvious. As you zoom out, the starry sky takes on a remarkable uniformity. Therefore, if you don't know about the existence of these voids, you would never guess how tangled a web surrounds you. This phenomenon was most vividly demonstrated by the well-known Millennium simulation, created in 2005 on the supercomputer at the Leibniz Computing Center. When you zoom in, you can clearly see the cellular structures made up of voids and galactic filaments. But as soon as you zoom out, as if by magic, everything becomes familiar and uniform again. In this regard, there's another important aspect worth mentioning. Most likely voids, including the huge KBS, are made up of dark matter, the most mysterious substance in the universe, whose existence has not been fully proven. Is this statement true? By all indications, it is. One day, scientists discovered that visible matter is only a small part of the universe, and the rest is an invisible something that they agreed to call dark matter. It can't be seen visually because it only reveals itself through gravity. In other words, this matter can only be measured indirectly, nothing more. It is dark matter that fills the void surrounding us, turning vast deserts into even stranger locations. Sometimes, looking at these unusual structures, a wild thought comes to mind. What if the universe is a huge, intricately designed living organism whose neural connections we are now witnessing firsthand? What is your opinion on this? If not for Estonian astronomer Ioan Elmarovich Ainasta and his progressive colleagues, the first to address voids, we would still be in the dark. Sorry for the pun. Our ancestors probably also struggled to let go of the familiar flat Earth idea. Some people still cling to this theory, but the Hubble channel holds progressive views. So it introduces you to the latest and most important research in the field of astronomy. For this, we only ask one thing: Don't be stingy with likes and reposts. This will inspire us to create exciting video journeys into the depths of space.